Then he went, Donald Trump, yeah, Donald Trump. I love Donald Trump, but no more drop box. The drop boxes are just so bad. No more drop boxes. Dickinson, Hologic, and Cephahide. That was about a rhino named Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney, a real beauty. Had to give the American people their voice back by building something called Truth Central. He voted against Kate's Law, and he voted for Obama amnesty. You know, we've endorsed Dr. Oz. We've endorsed JP, right? J.D. Mandel, and he's doing great. I've had more investigations than Jesse James, Billy the Kid. Some of the world's greatest cricket players, from Sachin Tendulkar to Virat Kohli. As the great religious teacher Swami Vivekananda once said. I hope they now go and take a look at the oranges of the investigation, the beginnings of that investigation. And God bless the United States. Thank you very much. He was awarded the Bronze Star and the Combat Infantryman Badge for his service. We have to keep our country great, but it's not, for some reason, it's just not great anymore. If you care about law and order, look, law and order. In normal times, roughly 40% of fresh vegetables and about 40% China. Nambia's health system is increasingly self-sufficient. This is not about virtue, cycling, and signing. And the great General and President Ulysses S. Grant, he's really come back a long way over the last 10 years, hasn't he? We appreciate it very much, Tim Apple. When they gaze upon Yosemite's towering sequoias, they delivered a swift and sweeping, sweeping. It was swift and it was sweeping like nobody's ever seen anything happen. Units of plasma for plasma. Donate plasma in the failing New York Times by an anonymous, gutless coward. I may ask Marilyn Lockheed, the leading woman's business. No teacher should ever be allowed to teach transgender to our children without parental consent. No. Nobody has to have parental consent, and we will totally oppose the Biden administration. This administration.
He made some statements, rough statements on Jewish. You heard them and you know them well.
Ladies and gentlemen, do not adjust your television. It is really 2023, and for the first time in history, a president is being indicted and will face criminal charges. This is all just such great news,
I was proven even more right than I would have ever imagined, because apparently, is actually indicting my father. So,
great orange leader. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe prayer does work.
This is like communist level shit. 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 This is like communist level shit.
Great orange leader. Dear God. God forbid, Donnie boy. God forbid, Donnie boy. Great orange leader. Dear God. God forbid, Donnie boy. God forbid, Donnie boy.
This is like communist level shit. This is like communist level shit. This is like communist level shit. This is like communist level shit.
You gotta get them on, Pat. You gotta get them on.
Great to be here.
You gotta get them on, Pat. You gotta get them on. Get them on, on. get him on, get him on,
No.
get him on, For the people that don't know, if you can take a quick moment, you got a massive YouTube channel, you got billions of views online. Your mom supports socialism or no?
No.
You like the fact that US is liked more today?
No.
Think Hillary's good.
Did I say that? No.
But you're saying that the middle voter doesn't matter at all.
No. Tangent. Keep going. Tangent.
Seriously?
Keep going. Tangent. Keep going. Tangent.
Seriously?
Keep going.
What are you talking about?
Keep going. What are you talking about?
Keep going. What are you talking about?
Keep going.
What are you talking about? That's insane.
Failure.
All right, folks, we've got to cut it. Where are my graphics? There they are. We've got to cut it because there is too much news. The failed, former, once indicted, twice impeached President Donald Trump has been indicted again, this time federal charges. I was pulled out of the shower for this news. I, with wet hair and my contacts out, barreled through the extremely low quality air due to the Canadian wildfires to come here to tell you today, with peace and love, that the former president has been indicted for a second time. This could be the second of 3. This could be the second of 4. And it could potentially be the second of 5 indictments. I'm soaking wet already from the shower. And we are going to review everything that is going on. Chakoseki wrongly reporting via Super Chat that the indictment was for all the fast food Trump brought to the White House. Not true. Not true. Let's talk about what we know so far. It is starting to build at Mar-a-Lago. Trump will be arraigned. Folks, he's getting arrested again. He's getting arrested again. And maybe we'll get a mugshot. Maybe they'll cuff him up. On Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, noon Pacific, I'm clearing my schedule for probably for the next month or so. I'm going to take the whole month off, but I'll cover the Tuesday thing just because it's going to be so crazy. And I hope you'll be with us for it. Let's see what we know so far. Trump indicated on 7 criminal counts in the classified documents case. This doesn't even touch the riotous insurrection. Okay, this is just the documents. They really should say failed former president, but okay. Former President Donald Trump has been indicted in federal court in connection with his retention of classified government documents after leaving the White House. Trump himself disclosed the indictments in a series of posts. Oh, hold on. I need to make sure I have my glitches. Where is my troth? Oh, God, what is happening? On his Truth social media site.
Truth Central.
He also said he has been summoned to appear in court in Miami on Tuesday. He is currently seeking the 2024 Republican presidential nomination. An FBI raid of his Mar-a-Lago residence last summer found hundreds of classified records. Let's go right to Truth Central. Here is Donald Trump issuing a statement in all caps. I am an innocent man. The Biden administration is totally corrupt. No evidence Biden has anything to do with this. This election interference and a continuation of the greatest witch hunt of all time. Make America great again. Let's hear from it from the horse's mouth itself.
Very sadly, we're a nation in decline, and yet they go after a popular president, a president that got more votes than any sitting president in the history of our country.
But 8 million fewer votes than the winner, Joseph R. Biden Jr.
By far, and did much better the second time in the election than the first.
I did way better. I'm likely to I'm likely to be arrested 4 times, but I did way better than Sleepy Joe.
And they go after him on a boxes hoax, just like the Russia hoax and all of the others. This has been going on for 7 years. They can't stop because it's election interference at the highest level. There's never been anything like what's happened. I'm an innocent man. I'm an innocent person.
Trump proclaiming his innocence, not particularly convincingly, I must say.
They had the Mueller hoax, the Mueller report, and that came out. No collusion after 2.5 years. That was set up by Hillary Clinton and Democrats.
No evidence.
But this is what they do. This is what they do so well. If they would devote their energies to honesty and integrity, it would be a lot better for our country. They could do a lot better. They could do a lot of great things.
None of these are legal arguments, by the way, which Trump will now have to pay someone to make, I guess.
But when you look at what's happened to our country in the last 3 years, we were energy independent. We had a strong military that wasn't woke. We were doing so well. We were respected all over the...
All right, so basically the same agit trash. Let's see what Trump had to say. Here is his announcement. Page 1. The corrupt Biden administration has informed my attorneys that I have been indicted, seemingly over the boxes hoax, even though Joe Biden has 1,850 capital B boxes at the University of Delaware, additional capital B boxes in Chinatown, D.C., with even more capital B boxes at the University of Pennsylvania, and documents strewn all over his garage floor where he parks his Corvette, and which is, quote, secured by only a garage door that is paper thin and open much of the time. Page 2. I have been summoned to appear at the federal courthouse in Miami Tuesday, 3 p.m. I never thought it possible that such a thing could happen to a former president of the United States, who received far more votes than any sitting president in the capital H history of our capital C country, and is currently leading by far all capital C candidates, both Democrat and Republican, in capital P polls of the 2024 presidential election. Caps lock engage. I am an innocent man. Page 3. This is indeed a dark day for the United States of America. We are a capital C country in serious and rapid capital D decline, but together we will make America great again. Wild stuff. Super chats are dumping in. Elements of indictments. Just wanted to show support. Wish I could afford to do more. Great to see you. So great to see you here. Big thank you to Jason Sickmeyer for gifting a subscription on the David Pakman Show website. And welcome to all of our new Twitch Prime subscribers, Zuzu Pebbles and Mr. Vister, as well as New Hampshire Fog, Billy Carpenter, Irie Man, Fake Artifacts, and Sam the Sleazebag Dirt Nap. It's all crazy, folks. We'll open phone lines and get your thoughts if we get to 100 new members, but there is so much to discuss. Let's continue here with the CNBC report. What do we know about charges? Not much. The nature of the latest charges against Trump are not public, as the indictment is sealed for now. The New York Times, citing people familiar with the matter, I assume they mean, reported that the charges include, quote, willfully retaining national defense secrets in violation of the Espionage Act. Trump is getting charged under the Espionage Act, making false statements in an obstruction of justice conspiracy. Wow. Trump is the only U.S. president ever to be criminally charged. Remember that there are the 2 stories of presidents who were, I guess it was like arrested on some, one was a traffic infraction or something. And then we're talking about something very different. This is definitely the only time this has happened to a former president in this way, where we're talking about charges, arraignment, and everything that we are seeing. And it is going to be an incredible week. And I hope that you will be here with us. In a video statement Thursday, Trump called the charges election interference at the highest level. No evidence of that, of course. We already went through the Troth Central posts. We know that agents found hundreds of documents marked classified at Trump's house.
Trump griped that Biden hasn't been arrested. Trump really seems to want other presidents to be arrested for Trump's crimes. Let's listen to what is happening on Newsmax. The copium is heavy. I believe this is Matt Schlapp, who has been, of course, accused of sexual assault. He runs, what's the thing called? The CPAC. Let's listen.
On the charges. Then when he became the president, they did everything they could to hobble him. And we know everything about the Mueller investigation, the special counsel. They went through every document.
I've heard enough. Total standard Trump apologia. Nothing too compelling, really, for me. Let's continue with super chats. Andrew says, David, sir, with tears in my eyes, I tell you, I was live with you January 6th and here for this. Good days as the Trump trash machine that is the banana Republican Party increasing is shredding itself. Brad says, does Trump realize that 18,000 12x, 10x, 8 boxes would take up roughly 1.4 million square feet? Of course he doesn't. Yeah, Biden has basically like an Amazon warehouse in order to store all his documents or something. Bernie says, Brother Dave, will Donald J. Trump will plead guilty from the standpoint of not guilty? Where's my Donald?
President Donald J. Trump.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Here is Sebastian Gorka, no doubt running interference for Trump.
Inflation, war in Europe, no baby formula on the shelves for Americans. There's no way you can reasonably win this next election.
Wow. So I guess Gorka's saying Biden has no shot because the economy's so bad. Of course, the baby formula issues have been resolved. And also we went through the economic situation metric by metric on Monday. And the economy's fine. I mean, there could be a recession coming. That's always the case. But the economy is essentially fine at this point in time. Let's see what we have happening over on Fox News. I'm curious whether they're maulding.
Dispute over documents that's governed exclusively by a civil statute, the Presidential Records Act. That act means anything created during a presidency, whether it's classified or not, can be maintained by a former president, period. But instead of seeking an injunction, let's say, or production of records in a civil court, let a judge hash it out, Garland chose to bastardize the law by raiding Trump's home and then seeking an indictment today. And it didn't matter that Trump was following the very same standard.
Isn't this great?
By the Department of Justice itself a decade ago in the Bill Clinton case, who kept classified documents. That was a standard endorsed by a federal court in Washington. The president can keep what he wants. But Garland didn't like that, and he doesn't care about the law. So he abandoned his own precedent because it's Donald Trump.
So we're going to have time to get all of the legal analyses, but there's already a number of lies and distortions here from Fox News' Greg Jarrett, including that it was wrong and unprovoked to raid Trump's house. They gave Trump months to return the documents, and he didn't do it. And then they went to get them.
Because I don't think you would have supported charges for Hillary or Joe Biden either, would you?
No, I don't think we should be criminalizing these decisions to take either accidentally or deliberately material home. I believe that every single president.
All of these indictments are just trumped up, even though they, of course, many of them pre-exist the Biden administration. They're for unrelated wrongdoing. It's all crazy. It's all crazy. Thanks to Guitar Goddess for gifting 10 subscriptions on Twitch. And also thanks to the couple of additional folks who just signed up there. And a huge thank you to Cheryl White as well as Aiden Myers for signing up on my website. Folks, if there has ever been a day, ever, to support independent media, I believe that it is today. The fire hose of misinformation is about to explode. We have one of the most important presidential elections, certainly that I've ever covered, coming up. And the president is going to run for re-election on the basis of an economy that, while it looks fine by the metrics, the right is saying everything's terrible and the sky is falling. There has never been a time at which the misinformation has been fought as this. I invite you to grab a membership on my website, joinpacman.com. Because Trump's been indicted, you can use the coupon code INDICTED to get a discount. You can use the coupon code INDICATED to get an even bigger discount. That's the crazy thing. And as always, we are pushing our way to 2 million YouTube subscribers. And if you are here right now, I would love it if you hit that subscribe button on YouTube, because it is going to be a wild, wild year and a half. That I can assure you. Let's continue to monitor the copium on Fox News as we also hear from people in the audience. I want to say thanks to Andrew for gifting 5 subscriptions via YouTube. Bayphoto says, is there another potential situation where DeSantis, little Rhonda, Rob, could be put into a position where he has to extradite Trump? Well, in theory, but Trump has to go to Florida to face these charges, not leave Florida to go elsewhere. Go to Florida. So at least not right now. Liz says, watching the Twitter response from the far right is literally terrifying. There isn't a more divided country on earth. Watching from South Africa and shaking my head. Yeah, it is wild what's going on. Speaking of Twitter, let's just see some of the stuff that is going on here. Let's see what we've got. Hillary, of course, laughing big time at what's going on. Marjorie Taylor Greene tweeting agit trash, as is often the case. We already looked at the Trump statements. Tim Scott, as we've all been anxiously waiting to hear what presidential candidate Tim Scott would say about Trump being indicted again. Let's listen.
The headlines this morning are about an imminent indictment of the former president. What is your reaction to those reports?
You know, one of the things I'd say is that I want, it's a serious challenge for the president, former president. B, I'd say I still believe that the determining factor for the 2024 election should be the voters. I think it is very, very dangerous to see and or feel like the Department of Justice is being weaponized. Of
course, it might feel that way to Tim Scott, but it happens not to be backed by any evidence whatsoever. Here is Marco Rubio weighing in. There is no limit to what these people will do to protect their power and destroy those who threaten it, even if it means ripping our country apart and shredding public faith in the institutions that hold our republic together. I want to now declare a very, very important thing, for lack of a better term. You are going to hear over the next minutes and hours and days and certainly weeks what we already started hearing after Trump was arrested the first time. And that is going to be that this shows that there is something not working in this country, that Trump being indicted shows us that something is wrong, that our institutions aren't working. In reality, what these indictments tell us, when a guy who so obviously, at least plausibly committed so many crimes, and then that person gets indicted, it tells us no one is above the law. It is a good thing to see that no one is above the law. We do have 2 justice systems in the United States, the one for the wealthy and the elites and the one for everybody else. And we know all too often how that works out. To see that Donald Trump is not above the law, at least so far as being charged, and then we'll see what happens, actually tells us something is working. Don't let these people lead you astray on that. Let's look at a couple of other super chats, and then we'll get back to that. Grant says, first saw you on Lex Friedman. Now I'm hooked. Been a longtime Destiny viewer. Truly hope to see you and Destiny talk again sometime soon. Yeah, I'm up for talking to Destiny anytime. I guess the issue is that Destiny's banned from Twitch, so I can't have him on. That's my understanding of what's going on. Big thank you to Lisa Rader, Stephen Brown, and Connor Harsh for signing up at joinpacman.com. Folks, if you're new here or if you're not, today's the day to sign up on my website. If we get to 100, we'll open phone lines. We'll hear people's thoughts about what's going on with the indictment. Brass Tack says, Can we talk about how Biden's, not Joe Biden, made money from foreign sources? I hear the Russian asset who made the claim is a really reliable source. I don't know if that's satire, to be totally honest. I'm not sure. Mart says, I know I've said it before, but today more than ever, your work is so important. Keep it up. Thanks, Mart. I appreciate that. Mr. Scott says, I've almost filled a row on my Trump criminal charges edition bingo card. Just need one more obstruction of justice and this round is mine. Mr. Scott, I think you're going to win it. I think you're going to get it. Tim says, sir, I have tears in my eyes. What a great day for this country. Accountability. Do not let the right trick you into thinking that these indictments are evidence that something is not working. These indictments are evidence that maybe something is working a little bit in the country. A little bit in the country. Let's continue seeing what our various right-wing friends and lunatics are saying on Twitter. Trump previously was raising money based on not being indicted. Now he's raising money on being indicted. That's interesting. Ronnie Jackson is calling it a witch hunt. Okay. Ronnie Jackson's a lunatic. Stephen Miller, I believe history will record today as the day we ceased to be a democratic republic. I'm not big on predictions, but I don't think so.
For President Trump, who has seen him up close and personal and what a heart he has for this country. Let me also say that I believe history will record today as the day that we ceased to be a democratic republic and we became a people ruled by an unelected government bureaucracy.
I disagree. I disagree completely. I don't think that that is at all what we have learned from today.
If you care about law and auto.
I care about law, auto, umbrella, life insurance. I care about all of it. Okay. And I don't believe that that is what we are going to take away from today. Trump fundraising off of the indictment, saying no matter how viciously they attack me, I will never, ever surrender our country to the radical left. Turning that one around pretty quickly. You will notice that Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton have not been indicted.
Obama.
Let's see what else we have here. A lot of nonsense, quite frankly. Congressman Andy Biggs says President Trump is indicted on the day we unveiled significant findings related to Joe Biden's corruption. Makes you wonder. I hate to break it to Andy Biggs. They didn't reveal significant findings. And also, no one's paying attention to that. No one's paying attention to what Andy Biggs is doing. Nancy Mace says she's not a shill, but this is all so unfair to Trump.
And when you look at the standard that he has, it's a double standard. It's a second tier, a double standard of justice in this country. And what the American people want, they want everybody to be treated the same. And, you know, Donald Trump's no fan of mine. He primaried me last year. So I'm not a shill, but I see this and I see how unfair it's been. And, you know, I just can't believe this is happening. And I said this 2 days ago. Harris, I said that this was going to happen on the day that we either held in contempt Christopher Wray with the FBI or we got access to those documents. You were right. And what I predicted it. It came true.
Wow.
This is the banana republic. I just cannot believe that this is what's actually happening. He's trying.
Not that new, but the line from Republicans now is, you can tell this country sucks because Trump isn't above the law. That's essentially the argument that they're making. Big thank you to Nathan Rylander, Denise Miller, Connor Allen, Jennifer Holland, and Michelle Jackson, putting us at 50 out of 100, signing up at joinpacman.com. Really appreciate that. Let's continue. We looked at the Stephen Miller clip. Stephen Miller hopes everybody in the Republican Party coalesces around Trump.
Pandora's box politically.
Well, I sure hope that that's exactly what happens, that the whole of the Republican Party, the whole of the conservative movement, and the whole of the country that cares about the rule of law coalesces around President Trump in this moment.
If you care about the rule of law, don't you have to look at this and say, hey, this is due process. Investigation leads to evidence. Evidence presented to a grand jury. Grand jury says indict, and now Trump is going to get his day in court. That's the due process that these right-wingers claim to want, that they claim to want. And yet, now they complain. Let's take a look and see what is happening over on NBC News.
At said rally. So that's what these videos are designed for. And look, he sounds like this is what I have just been curious about this whole time. Even if voters start to impact him, he does not sound like a guy who's ever going to quit this race. And he's ever going to stop running. And I don't know how the Republican Party is going to deal with him or figure out how to get rid of him if he is somehow potentially headed for a guilty verdict.
You know, today I interviewed former Republican strategist Steve Schmidt, and I told him it seems like a lot of the non-Trump candidates, other than Chris Christie, are basically waiting around for Trump to be pulled off the campaign trail because he has too many indictments against him. The problem is it can't work for all of them. They're not all going to benefit from that. And what Steve Schmidt said is it's not actually going to work for any of them. That's sort of the argument that Chuck Todd seems to be making here. Let's see what's going on Newsmax.
And did much better the second time in the election than the first. And they go after him on a boxer's hoax, just like the Russia.
All right, we already looked at that earlier, so I don't think we need to look at it again. Jay Minty Fresh says via Super Chat, "Hey David, how are you? I saw Trump was indicted along with the fact that Pat Robertson passed during Pride Month. How ironic! It is an odd thing. It really is." 100 Savages says, "Hey David, glad to see that law and auto has prevailed. God bless the United Schlates. Couldn't have said it better myself." And Chakaseki says Trump was federally indicted, but when is he going to be federally indicated? I wish I knew, Chakaseki. I wish I knew. For people who don't know, Chakaseki is the resident radiologist at the David Pakman Show. If I had to say the David Pakman Show from the standpoint of medical, now I'm talking strictly medical, we are heaviest in terms of our audience on neurologists, cardiologists, and maybe radiologists. Those may be the three most represented medical specialties in among the David Pakman Show audience, at least that I know, at least that I'm aware of. Music Addict says, "David, so does this mean Trump's healthcare plan is on hold?" You know, guys, I'm starting to think we may not get Trump's healthcare plan in 2 weeks. That may not happen, particularly because of this latest indictment. Bernie says, "Police officers came up to me, big, strong guys. They came up to me, tears in their eyes, and they said, 'Sir, you're under arrest.'" Very much well said. Very, very much well said. All right, let's listen to a little bit of how Fox News is running interference.
Is expected to enter a not guilty plea, or a representative of him will do that for the judge. It is also important to note that the president is not just facing this circumstance by the Biden DOJ. He is also facing an indictment in the state of New York. There is also an ongoing investigation in the state of Georgia as well. And so this could be a political death by 1,000 cuts, or this will be the one thing that really girds the former president and his supporters.
It might gird his loins, and that would be a sight to see. Unionized Cracker Barrel says via Super Chat, "David, I'm worried about the arresting officers. Last time Trump said they were holding back tears. This may be too much for them." I do believe that this time around in Miami on Tuesday, I do believe that the officers will cry. I do think so. I think that that is going to be a really tough day for them, quite frankly. Thanks to Robert Ferreira for signing up at joinpacman.com. If you're just joining us, we're at 51. If we get to 100, we'll open the phone lines wide open and we'll let all of you weigh in on these latest charges. Jacob says, "But David, Trump is still the president. He'll be installed any day now by the military and the MAGA heroes. You'll see." Yeah, guys, why can't you just understand? Trump won in 2020, but they stole it from him and put Biden in. But Trump is really still the president because he's controlling the military just not the woke generals who have gone totally critical race theory. But meanwhile, it's so there's a Kennedy who has run with Trump, and they really control the whole thing. Right? Something along those lines. And also somehow, even though Trump is still president now, he can run again, even though you actually can only serve 2 terms. It's all very weird. Very, very weird. Bayphoto asks, do you think Trump will try and ban men from women's prisons now?
And we will ban men.
I'm going to opt out on that particular question. Thanks to Mad Max for the Twitch Prime subscription. You're number 52. I've got to hear Mark Levin's reaction to this. Let's see. He's a total Trump brown-noser.
Espionage Act of 1917 was passed under Woodrow Wilson, another corrupt president. Woodrow Wilson used it to go after his adversaries, and they imprisoned 2,000 people. So I suppose over there at the Department of Injustice, and this clown prosecutor spent a lot of time at The Hague. They probably figured these laws could be used to try and entrap Trump. All these obstruction issues that they claim were the former attorney general.
You know Mark Levin is trustworthy because he's holding his glasses.
The formers coming on talking about obstruction. They have them on obstruction. There'd be no obstruction issue of any kind, not even in anybody's imagination, had they not criminalized this case. This is a document case.
I would go further. The only reason anything is a crime is because they've criminalized it. Apply that to any charge you want, guys. Do the people, I know the people on YouTube get it. Do the people on Twitch realize that if you didn't make it a crime, it wouldn't be a crime? And then that's it. That's it. It's just totally unfair.
The American people, this is a guy that's got documents from the time he was in the U.S. Senate, for God's sakes, in his garage. I don't want to hear from the legal analysts the technicalities about false statements and obstruction. This should never have been a criminal case.
Oh, my goodness.
Willful retention of documents. Well, what's the unwillful retention of documents mean? They're throwing all these process crimes and all these crimes that grow out of the criminal investigation against Trump. What did he do with the documents?
I got to get popcorn for this.
No, that's why we have an Espionage Act, not to trick up a president. What did he do? Did he burn them all? No, the government has all the documents back. So there is no violation of the Presidential Records Act at this point. But they throw the book at him. They go after his attorneys. They make them testify. They're attorneys under the crime fraud exception to attorney-client privilege. That means he didn't have due process. His own lawyers were being subjected to interrogations, and they had hundreds of in-person people testifying in front of grand juries. Thousands of collections of documents for what? For what? And they indict him today? They indict him today in Miami? All of a sudden it's in Miami? All of a sudden we have a Florida grand jury? Because the moron in Washington figured out that there are venue issues that could lose him his case. This guy, this prosecutor, he lost 8-0 in the U.S. Supreme Court when they overturned the conviction of the former governor of
Levin's on fire. Levin, however he says it.
Statute and expanded it. A jury in North Carolina wouldn't convict John Edwards because this jerk took a campaign statute and expanded it. And he's taken this case and he's undermining the country and he's interfering with a presidential election. And let me be clear, as Jarrett said, the Attorney General of the United States made this final decision. This is not the independent counsel statute. This is a special counsel appointed by the Attorney General under a Department of Justice regulation. This Attorney General, who pretends he's Helen Keller, he made the decision to indict the former president, and they made the decision to interfere in this election. You want to...
This is really nuts.
This is an insurrection, and that's exactly what's going on here. Let me go on. Joe Biden is the crookedest crook that's ever been in the Oval Office. Everywhere we look, there's a predicate for a special counsel. They won't appoint a special counsel, even though it's compelled under the law in which they appointed this special counsel And you're not supposed to appoint a special counsel against your political opponent. You're supposed to appoint one in the case of Biden. 20 shell corporations, $10 million coming from the communist Chinese military.
Should we keep going just to see how long this is going to go? He looks like he's going to blow a gasket.
Endless meetings with Biden's, with Hunter Biden's business partners. Bobulinski, who ties Joe Biden to the crimes.
The Bobulinski testimony was bogus.
10%.
Wasn't even testimony.
Say, well, then where's the money? He's asking us, come and catch me if you can. The idea that this man isn't under a criminal investigation and that they criminalized a damn document case to go after Donald Trump is sickening. And I would say this to our fellow Americans. Don't be bamboozled by these cable channels and these fools who come on and tell you, well, he's not above the law. Are you kidding me? Democrat Attorney General in New York, Democrat prosecutor in Manhattan, Democrat prosecutor in Atlanta, Democrat Attorney General in Washington, D.C. What do you mean he's not above the law? There is no law. What's going on here is a disgusting disgrace.
How much longer could this guy go?
It is war on the Republican Party, and it is a war on the Republic. The radical left is doing what the radical left does while they cover up for Biden the way they covered up for Hillary. If Donald Trump is to be charged like this, Hillary Clinton should have been charged with 10,000 counts of obstruction because that's how many emails she destroyed. And 5 counts of destroying cell phones because that's how many cell phones they destroyed. I'm done and I'm sick of it.
What you said, you know, Mark, many years ago you said to me, and you said in one of your books, we're in a post-constitutional America. And what you're describing here, when you said they are the ones that...
All right, so I think that's probably enough. Okay. Let's see what else is on people's minds via Super Chat. Dexy says, Pat Robertson, hatefulness gone. Voter Rights Act upheld. Trump indicted. Who knew this random Thursday would be super? Paul says, what does Paul Allen's indictment look like? I don't even remember who Paul Allen is. American business person. Paul Allen. Some rich dude. I don't even know which billionaire that is. I'm sorry. Oh, American Psycho reference. Okay. Let's see what else we got. Sorry, I dropped the ball on that one. Air Force says drain the pool. Very, very important. Huge thank you to George McGuire and Marjorie Milner, who just signed up on my website, joinpacman.com, if you're just joining us. Donald Trump has been indicted a second time. He will face at least 7 counts. He will be in court Tuesday at 3 p.m. in Miami, as far as we know, unless he is somehow able not to have to be there and send only a lawyer representative. Incredible stuff that is going on. Thank you to Tiny Sir Jen for gifting 5 subscriptions on Twitch, and thanks to a few other people who also signed up. Let's see what is happening over on NBC News here. Trump's lawyers say he has been indicted.
At an event there. So you were left with this split screen where you saw the president delivering his remarks, doing his job as president. Meanwhile, you saw former President Trump on a tarmac arriving in New York City. It was a stunning split screen and one that I think the White House is plenty satisfied with. And it's very likely that, as you will see wall-to-wall coverage of this tomorrow, there will be a not so dissimilar split screen with headlines all about Donald Trump and this indictment. And President Biden is scheduled to travel to North Carolina tomorrow. He's delivering remarks on the economy. He's scheduled to visit with troops at Fort Liberty, what was formerly...
All right, so it'll certainly be a contrast we've become accustomed to, I think we can say for sure. Let's check in a little bit on what Sebastian Gorka is saying about this on Newsmax.
Up on Twitter. It's from the Federal Register. It's 2 pages long. It's dated January the 19th, the day that the president was preparing to leave the White House before the inauguration of Joe Biden. And this document, it's a page and a half, it's very brief, states that I, President Trump, declassify every document pertaining to the Russia hoax and Operation Crossfire Hurricane. It's in the federal record. It has the president's signature whilst he was still president. How are they going to bring a case against him regarding any documents if they are declassified? Mike, help me out.
Of course, if that were true, you wouldn't have a recording where Trump says in July after leaving office, I have classified documents here that I can't show you. How on earth could both of those things be true?
Like President Clinton did when he took 8 years of audio recordings of his presidency, highly classified audio recordings, including discussions with foreign leaders that he put in his sock drawer. And an Obama judge in 2012 correctly held that the mere fact that a president took his presidential records when he leaves office deems them personal under the Presidential Records Act, and it doesn't matter whether they're classified. And that's the issue. That's the whole problem with what Biden is doing here. The Biden Justice Department and Attorney General Merrick Garland are trying to charge under the Espionage Act that does not apply to a president or former president's handling of his presidential records.
If you believe these right-wingers, everything that's happening to Trump is just so unfair. Nobody who is making prosecutorial decisions has any idea how the law works. And now we've got Jonathan Turley, who I'm sure is going to give us blistering legal analysis.
Looking at this saying, oh, no reasonable prosecutor would prosecute except if your name's Trump. Or if you look at Joe Biden, not one, not two, not three, but 4 separate locations. The Biden Penn Center, Delaware, the University of Delaware, where he had his car, his beach house, all with, and again, we've yet to get specifics on what he's had. Amazingly, there is a special counsel in the case of Joe Biden. We haven't heard word one from him. We have no idea if any grand jury's been convened by him. I tend to think not, or it would have leaked, or we would have heard something. And Americans, I think, are rightly
what about other investigations that have a different timeline, participants, trajectory, and subject matter? What about that?
I think that is going to be a view of many Americans. I think what the Department of Justice is going to say is that they're charging conduct that shows intent. And if you look at the profile on these crimes, they're sort of interesting. If I was on the Biden legal team, I would be very uneasy right now to hear that there are mishandling counts. Joe Biden mishandled material for a much longer period in many more locations than did President Trump. So if I was Biden's counsel, I'd be a little bit uneasy. And that's one of the reasons that's going to be the first thing some of us look to is how they thread this needle. I mean, if they're charging possession and retention of possession for a period of time, that would seem to implicate President Biden. But if they carve this out narrowly to try to focus on specific acts separate from the possession, then there's going to be a concern that they were actually crafting this indictment not just to go for Donald Trump, but to miss President Biden. So those are some of the things that we're going to be looking at as we see what they actually have here. But the other problem that was to go to look down the road, Sean, is it's going to get very messy. You have the leading candidate for the presidency of the United States who is in the middle of a campaign. This court is going to be holding all types of hearings and is going to have to make some scheduling decisions. That's going to be one of the most novel processes we've ever heard of. To what extent will the court...
Yeah, I mean, there are going to be logistical issues to overcome, so maybe just let them get away with the entire thing. I don't know.
But people forget that the DOJ is part of the executive branch. This is Joe Biden's DOJ. This is Joe Biden's AG. We have an ongoing investigation by Jim Jordan on the House Judiciary Committee into whether or not the FBI is weaponized or politicized, and the DOJ is being weaponized.
Yep, we're going to find out about that very soon. The Republicans are going to tell us whether the DOJ has been weaponized. All right, let's... These people think we're going to take them seriously in this on this stuff. It's just wild stuff. They caught the Mark Levin rant on Twitter, which is good because it was completely whacked, really whacked. And then let's see if we have anything else. Clay Higgins weighing in. President Trump said he has been summoned to appear at the federal courthouse in Miami on Tuesday at 3 p.m. This is a perimeter probe from the oppressors. Hold. Our POTUS has this. Buckle up. 1 out of 50K. Know your bridges. Rock steady, calm. That is all. Man, I just don't understand the slang that little kids use these days. I just don't really know. I just don't understand much of it. Espionage Act, we mentioned that. We certainly are aware of that. Ted Cruz is now fundraising. It is sort of a raid. Fundraising off of Trump's indictment as well. You can help Ted Cruz fight back by giving him money, which is super exciting. Kevin McCarthy is calling it a dark day for the United States of America, saying it is unconscionable for a president to indict the leading candidate opposing him. Joe Biden kept classified documents for decades. Remember, no evidence Joe Biden is in any way involved in this. I and every American who believes in the rule of law stand with President Trump against this grave injustice. House Republicans will hold this brazen weaponization of power accountable. Really wild stuff. Really, really wild stuff. Charlie Kirk has an idea. Every Republican running for president should suspend their campaign and go to Miami as a show of support. If you don't, you are part of the problem. Either we have an opposition party or we don't. Go to Miami Tuesday and show solidarity, or we will mark you as part of the opposition. All right, that sounds pretty interesting to me. I would have absolutely no problem. Go. Go to Miami. Make it a total sideshow. Deadeye says via Super Chat, forgive my ignorance. What does this mean for Trump exactly? Is there something in place that prevents him from either taking the nomination or even serving if elected, or will there be soon? My understanding is that by law, these indictments do not impact Trump's legal ability to run for the nomination nor for president. And it will really be up to voters to decide. Am I off of this? Is this just not going to be for us and we're going to switch to someone else? Or are they going to say it's all unfair, it's all trumped up, and we're still going to choose as our nominee this guy who's now been indicted twice and potentially will be indicted again? But legally, my understanding is there is not an issue, that would push Trump out of the race. If anybody has a different perspective, by certainly let me know, but it is not my understanding that that is the case. Let's listen a little bit more here.
As a result of this. And as you said, this is about a document case, documents that he had the right to have. And never, I don't think in any of our lifetime, Sean, have we ever seen something like this. He is a former president. He is a candidate to be the next president of the United States. And his opponent in this race has charged him with a federal crime. This is a very dark day for our country, and we, the people, need to stand with Donald Trump tonight.
All right. So we're getting the sense of the reaction here from the right. It's unfair. Stand with Trump. Republicans should rally around. And that is where we are at this point in time. All right. This is going to end my coverage today. We are going to have full coverage of this tomorrow. Trump's scheduled to speak to the Republican convention in North Carolina on Saturday. Will he do that? Scheduled to speak in Iowa. Will he do that? I have absolutely no idea. We don't know where this is going, but Trump indicted again, and we will be back with you on the podcast tomorrow. See you very soon.